DJ Payne 1.
You know I'm flawed, but you love me anyway.
Love me anyway.
A lot of times I'm so wrong.
Go live.
We're live. All right, welcome to the Somewhat Podcast, and this is the Supernatural.
Wanted to be with you.
Surprise.
Late night sleep with you.
Aren't you surprised?
who's-
To the club.
Wait, whoa. Who's that?
Worst surprise acting ever.
Whoa. Who is that? Who's that dude with that weird hat? Is that
You
like?
guys gotta do better than that.
Is that Puerto Rican Alex?
Oh yeah, caballero, Puerto Rican Alex here.
I'm sorry, I'm speechless. I'm so surprised. I'm just speechless. Sorry.
Every now and then, Puerto Rican Alex gotta come and hang out with you guys. Otherwise, what's the point?
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Que bueno, caballero. All right,
Está bien.
today your Spanish is lacking, my friend.
Está bien.
Today we're gonna be talking about ghost, ghouls, goblins, and other things that go bump in the night. And we're not talking about frat party boys. We're specifically gonna be talking about a phenomenon known in the Middle Eastern world as the jinn, right? And I know you've seen like ghost hunting and all this other type of bakwa stuff on History Channel, et cetera, but we're gonna try to get like we're gonna try to do this in like a scientific, cultural, and historical manner, so we can talk knowledgeably about this supernatural phenomenon.
We're basically going to tell the Westerners what the hell they're looking for.
Right.
Well, first of all, like, how would you define supernatural? Like, what does it mean, supernatural?
Saint, you're the
How would you
saint.
get-
No, well, supernatural is anything that, first of all, you can't see it. Something that you can't physically are able to do when you experience a phenomena. Let's say flying saucers, aliens, Bigfoot, Dogmen, lizardmen.
Yeah, so basically, yeah.
Energy
Anything
balls.
that's
Demons.
There's a long
Energy
list.
balls.
You want to go through the list first?
No,
Yeah.
but for the viewers, want to make sure that they know what we're referencing.
each
I think
culture-
supernatural. Yeah.
Each
Go ahead.
culture has its own representation of the supernatural.
Okay.
So they have their own stories and their own myths,
Right.
so to speak, about what the supernatural might be. And from what we're trying to introduce is from a Eastern perspective. All
Okay.
those supernatural beings, whether they're witches, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, whatever, fall under one category.
Okay.
And that category is in the Eastern world is known as the jinn, right? Basically, what they are is they're creatures that God created out of a smokeless fire. So if you're a adherent of the Abrahamic faiths, humans were, according to the Abrahamic faiths, humans were made out of clay. God made them out of clay, right? These beings were made out of some type of smokeless fire, and the angels were made out of light. So these like creatures that people talk about culturally are those jinn, so to speak.
Yeah.
You also want to elaborate on that. There's about 1.4 billion Muslims who actually believe in their existence because it's part of their faith. All right. So it's not like something, oh yeah, I believe in it or I don't. They do because it's kind of part of their faith. And so in Christianity, demons are very loosely related to jinns, I would say, because the more I dug up, demons and the whole concept of demons is very different.
Wait, say you were digging up demons? Where at, man? You didn't tell us.
What do you have buried, bro? What the hell's going on?
Okay, I see. I have to take a different stance with this. All right.
No, no.
Why are you writing stuff down, bro? What the hell?
Oh no, I'm just grabbing my little puffer.
Oh, I got you. It's like he's taking notes and stuff like Riz K said this at this time. Puerto Rican Alex said this at this time.
No. Saint, go ahead. I want to hear more about what you found when you dug up these. I meant,
Christianity's view. There is no view
Yeah.
of the jinns in Christianity. The whole demons mentioned in the Bible and what they are, it's a whole different concept. All right, it doesn't even come close. All right, first of all, there's no mention of what kind of beings they are. We know they're elemental beings made out of fire. All right, smokeless fire, but the element is fire. All right, just like he said, the angels' creation element is light. Nur, as we would say in Arabic, and for human beings, we're made out of clay. Now, if somebody's like, oh, how are they made out of fire? Then my question would be, how are we made out of clay? Exactly. So you just got to relate it in that sense. Yes, their element is fire. Our element is clay. And you can see what we turned out like, so you can imagine what they turned out like.
I don't want to.
You don't want to?
I don't want to imagine anything, bro.
Something fascinating though. There's a lot of miracles about Solomon, the prophet Solomon, King Solomon.
Yeah.
As mentioned in the Bible. What a lot of when I was talking to some of my Christian colleagues, they had no idea, like the palaces that were built for him, and the in that time the technology he had, where it came from. It was actually, from our perspective, we know the story involves that he had the power to talk to animals, but he also had control over the jinn. And when
Now,
the whole story about the Queen Sheba coming over to meet Solomon, and how her throne, just to show her his power, gifted to him by God. There was a jinn in his court. He said, I can bring it within seconds. But then there was one of his really righteous, person in his court. And he said, in the blink of an eye, and when he blinked, the throne of Sheba was there. So, so there's a variation of the story in the Islamic faith to the Christian faith, but I found that very interesting. It had a lot of miracles, but the Bible never explained how it happened.
So like, if I'm hearing you correctly, Saint, so from a theological standpoint, this is part of the belief of the 1.4 billion Muslims. It's written in the Holy Book. It's mentioned in the Quran, I believe, in several places. Now, let's talk a little bit more about these entities. So, I mean, none of us has ever seen a jinn, right? I'm assuming. I don't know if any of you guys ever seen one or felt
Thankfully
one.
not.
We wouldn't know. How you wouldn't know?
What's that?
You wouldn't know.
But I've had like relatives tell me, like, they claim that they felt the presence, or they.
Yeah, but you specifically seeing one face to face, like you wouldn't know.
First of all, they're not going to appear in their original form. They would
if they
usually
do,
manifest a
problem.
form that would scare you, first of all. And I just want the listeners to know we actually came up with the idea to talk about this because we've been watching. We've been watching a lot of the missing 411 cases by David Pilates, and his journey into a lot of the missing person reports he covers in the national parks all around the United States and Canada. And I'll put the link down so you can check out his channel. It's very interesting. And what I've seen in the Western culture, they are still at, they're just like, they have no idea what they're dealing with. And when I look at it, and a lot of the people who know about this, we know exactly what they're dealing with.
But so you're saying that these jinns, like, if they were to manifest in this, in our dimension, I think they would take the shape of another human being or an animal. I think
It depends
like
on
a
the
snake,
situation. If they're
dog,
trying to
cat.
keep you away from a certain area, they don't want you infiltrating because they usually live in areas where not human beings don't usually live, like the
Yeah, so
wildernesses,
from
the mountains, the barren deserts, like especially where there's no civilization. They stay
and
far away.
you brought up something pretty interesting, Risque, and I'd like for you to delve more into it and get more involved in that portion of that conversation. But you said the dimension, right? So
Yeah.
if we're talking it from a physics standpoint, so we all know that we live in a 3D world, right? So there's something in front of us, something behind, above, and below, right? And there's a sphere around us, so to speak. And then there's air, water, molecules, et cetera, et cetera. The access to certain types of motion and physics response that we have because we're made out of flesh is one thing. And if let's say there was a creature that was made out of fire, their access to the physics, their abilities of the physics around them would be different than ours. And they might have more access, less access to to the response in the physical realm. So what we do know is that they have the ability to shapeshift, so to speak, right? And this ties into the Western idea of witches shapeshifting. That witches could shapeshift.
Skinwalkers, they talk.
They could shapeshift into dogs, cats, creatures, bats, those type of things. And like it was always like black cats or black dogs
Snakes.
or black snakes. And it if you think about it, and this is just my opinion, it's not because like let's say black is a bad color, right? Or is it symbolizes evil. It's if you think about it, right? If you really, really think about it, what is the color black? It's the absence of light.
It's absence of light. Yeah.
That's it.
Absence of light.
That's it. So like,
According
Go
to the Islamic faith, you got to also realize that the base instinct of a human is to do good. We tend to go towards good, but their base instinct is not straight evil; it's chaos. All right, but in the
Wait, are you talking about the jinns?
Yeah, the jinn and the humans. So their base instinct is chaos. Ours is goodness. All right, but both beings can go over to the other side. Like, there are really evil people in the world do bad things, right? A human.
Yeah, there's no bad babies that are born.
So, same thing with the jinn. They can choose to do good also. They have religion also. So there's religion, there's culture, there's diversity in them also. Just like.
So you're saying they're basically, it's another civilization that's living in parallel to our dimension. Now they have access to our dimension, meaning they can see us, but we can't see them.
So if you take the straight meaning out of the Quran, it says when Allah Ta'ala says that you can't see them from where they are, but they can see you from where they are. Like you can't. So the dimension is like this. They're in an invisible realm, which is just invisible to us. We only see one gradient of light, right? Which is white light. That's all we can observe. We can't see X-rays. We can't see gamma rays. We can't see anything else.
Right. Now, most of the universe is made of dark matter anyways, isn't it?
Okay, we're going way off topic now.
No, but
let's stick to something a little closer,
dude,
right?
dark matter and all that stuff, that is a whole different category of stuff right
now. No, but it ties into if you're saying that these entities live in another dimension.
I don't think dark matter has any. If you study about dark matter, that's a whole different thing. It's more related to black holes.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. All right.
One thing I did want to go back to was you had mentioned that they live in specific areas. So like the areas that they would live in is like like the wilderness, like really really remote places in the desert, remote places in the mountains and the forest, in the oceans, you know, and places that humans don't frequent, right? They don't like us around. You know what I'm saying? So like places specifically that we don't frequent, like cemeteries at night, and the wilderness is where typically they are. They also tend to be in places that have a lot of like chaos, like Saint was saying. So like war zones, areas of genocide, places where a lot of evil or bad things are happening. They tend to be in that vicinity, in those areas, in those spaces. If you ever talk to a police officer, right, when they walk into a crime scene, especially a really horrendous crime scene where there was a lot of murder that took place, they always say that they can tell before they walk in. Right? There's a sense about the place. There's a feeling about it. There's a weight in the air that they feel before they even go in, and they know what's happening or what they don't see anything, so they can feel it. So, you know, and that's because there might be, you know, those type of beings in those areas of places that a lot of evil is going on. You know.
What about all those stories that you hear? I'm sure you guys have heard them too. That like jinn possessions, like where they actually, you know, maybe they get enamored by a particular person, and they, you know, they possess them in some way, and then they have like these faith healers who do rituals that will, you know, get rid of the jinn.
There's a little bit I read from Imam Ghazali, and he wrote that the reason the jinn possess humans is based on one need of theirs to actually experience physical senses. They don't have those. They can't taste. Like we do taste, you know, food.
Okay.
And other things we experience in the physical realm. To just actually get a feeling, a sense of those things, that's the desire that makes them to possess a being. Now, there are certain conditions that have to apply, because it's not an easy thing for them to do, because it also puts them in pain when they try to do that. So it's not just the human feeling the agony and, you know, torment of being possessed. There are certain aspects you have to be in a very unhygienic state, or you are doing something really, really bad or evil, let's say. You know, those are kind of things that open up that, I guess, the energy field or whatever, you know, or the opportunity, I would say, for them to possess a certain being. So, stay clean, boys.
What about you, Risque? What have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, growing up, you know, I heard stories from various relatives about, you know, strange things happening typically at nighttime. Like, for example, like there was one story. There was an aunt of mine. I forget. They were like in some park or some place like that, and they had a little boy with them, right? And she claims that the little boy was. He was on the edge somewhere, right? He's on the edge, and there was like a fall. I don't know how deep the fall was or whatnot. Now she's claiming, I don't know how true this is or not, but she's saying like when the boy fell, but somehow he was something levitated him, basically lifted him up so he didn't fall to the ground, and he put him back. Like, I mean, that's one example. Another example that's kind of interesting is like I had an uncle who's like you know, he used to drive trucks, like those long distance trucks, and this was late, and it's always late at night when this happens.
Yeah, because people aren't around.
Absence of light, buddy.
But anyway, so he was driving late at night, and he said that there was like a woman on the side of the road, right? And she was wearing like in Pakistan,
Wedding
woman.
dress.
No, not a wedding dress, just a normal shalwar, like normal clothes, covered her head.
Sorry.
Whatever. I don't think it was a sari either.
Okay.
That's Bangladesh.
Keep going.
But anyways, the clothes is not important. But anyway, so they stopped to give her a ride.
Oh my god, dude!
Yeah.
Did you guys see that? The house in the background, the lights turned on and off by itself. Did you see that?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Creepy.
No.
Anyway,
The house in my background, it flickered lights.
oh,
I think
did
it
it?
might be a graphic thing. I gotta watch that.
all right.
Go ahead.
So anyway, so they give this lady a ride, and then after like a few minutes, like my uncle, he's a smoker or whatever, right? So he he was like in the car. He bent down to kind of light the cigarette, and he says when he looked down, the lady's feet were inverted.
Like
Holy shit, dude. I would have jumped out that truck right there.
And he said that like inside he was like freaking out, right? Like his heart was pounding, and he's like, but
He didn't want to show it, right?
he says that like, but anyways, apparently like she didn't do anything or whatever, right? So they just dropped her off at some other point. He tried to act his best that like he didn't notice that her feet were inverted, right? So that's another common story that I've heard. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know what to make of that.
That takes a lot of balls, man.
My pops told me this story. Listen to this shit. So he was saying he was walking, right? And he was like walking in the street or whatever, and he was headed to his sister's house. And this is when he was young, like in his 20s, right? And he said that he was heading to his sister's house to go hang out with her, and his sister loved cats, right? So like he saw a cat, so he just picked up a cat and he started walking with it. And he was saying as he was walking, like the cat got like really fucking heavy. So he looks and it's a kid in his arms. He's like, "What the hell? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What do you mean? You were a cat?" He's like, "Yeah, you took me from my family." He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I was with my family and you picked me up and you took me from them." And he's like, my pops was like, he's like losing his mind. Like he's like, am I high? Like what the hell, did I pick up a kid or a cat? Like what's going on? And then he said he freaked out, so he like put the kid down and he gave him some money and he was like, just don't tell anybody about this. And the kid left, They go back to your family, and the kid left. And I was like, bro, like I was like, Bubba, come on, man, you got to be kidding me. Like you didn't know you picked up a kid? And he said, I picked up a cat. He's like, I picked up a freaking animal. It was not a child. And I noticed because it all of a sudden got super heavy, and I was like, "Damn, son."
But I think most people that are listening to these stories that we relate, I think most people are going to have a hard time believing them in this day and age. Correct? Wouldn't you say?
I don't know, man.
There's things that happen.
You'd be surprised how
Really?
much
dude.
weird that happens. Literally, it's maybe
It just go ahead.
look. Okay, let me just look at our pop culture at this moment. You know how many shows show magic and all supernatural stuff happening? I mean, apart from all the superhero stuff that's coming out, just relatively, just watch the media in this day and age. Right now, we're talking about. There's shows about witches. There's shows about wizards. Like the whole culture's changed towards magic and all supernatural, demonic stuff.
But fascination with a certain field doesn't necessarily mean that it's that it
I'm not
occurs
talking
in
about
reality,
that.
right?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people listening and kind of relating to it. If not them, they've probably heard it from somebody. Just like how you're relating. I was surprised that guys at my work, how much they were like, no, we know there's stuff that happens, we can't explain. We're not going to deny it, because a lot of them go hunting and stuff. So I used to ask them, hey, did you ever experience anything? They're like, dude, you have no idea.
Yeah, man.
Like this guy literally, his father had passed away about a week ago. So his buddies said, "Hey, listen, let's go hunting. You know, we'll take your mind off things. You know, kind of get out of the house and stuff." So he did. So I'm just gonna cut to the part where he goes that after they had camped at a certain place in Georgia, you know, at their hunting site, whatnot, and they were sleeping, and he hears his father calling him. All right. So he gets up and he's like, maybe he's hearing things, and then his buddy who was in the tent next to him, he opens his tent and comes out. He's like, "Hey, Bill, what's going on?" He's like, "What do you mean what's going on?" He's like, "Dude, that sounds like your dad." He's like, "You know that ain't my dad, right? There's no way he's my dad. We buried him about a week ago."
Yeah. That was something trying to bring him.
So they were like, they could not sleep all night. They stayed in their tent. They had their guns with them. As soon as day broke, they packed up and they left.
And I had a similar phenomenon happen to me as well. We went to.
So you tell me, like, this is a grown man telling me this.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't know how to explain it, but yet he's not gonna deny what he, experienced.
Yeah.
The experience, his experience, right?
As a young adult, me and a group of my friends went to like a cabin trip in the wilderness, and there was a girl there that she was hearing her father call her and telling her father had passed and telling her to come into the it was a field of like crops, so the whole field was empty. There was nothing, acres and acres and acres and acres and acres, and it was something was calling her like come, and it was at night, and she was like, "Yo, you calling me? Are you telling me to come to you? Where are you?" She was trying to go, and like we had to stop her. We were like, "Yo, that's not your father. You know that, right? That's not your father. Whatever's out there, that's not him." And it's a common phenomenon.
Imagine this, but imagine this, like whatever it is, how does it sound like father? Make the same sound, mimic it completely.
Well, I would also say that, like, I definitely keep an open mind, and I realize there's a lot of things that I don't understand and, that are hard to explain. I definitely keep an open mind. But I would also say that a lot of these experiences that people claim to have, I think a lot of them can also probably be explained by other
I'm
phenomena, without a doubt.
For example,
phenomenons.
Yeah, like auditory hallucination,
especially
seizures.
The most tricky ones are the possession ones, because a lot of the symptoms those people show.
The drug use.
Yeah, they're psycho, and with psychology or medication, whatnot.
Or like even just like severe anxiety or trauma. Here's an interesting one.
If you don't know the symptoms of like manic depressive bipolar behavior, like a villager or someone without that knowledge would automatically assume that this person's possessed, because they change their behavior like very quickly and rapidly.
What about the carbon? Carbon
monoxide.
Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
There's this what's her name? Her name was like Carrie Hopkins, I want to say.
But give me the link for her TED.
I will, and we'll put it on there. Yeah. But just to quickly, she was basically she was an educated lady, and she thought that her house was haunted. Basically, she was hearing like these sounds, and she had like this sort of unexplained, vague feeling of dread that something evil was lurking behind it or something. So, and this was going on, and she got so scared she called up her friend, and her friend, I guess, was one of those hippie type woke people, and she said, like, take a sage, something, is a flower or something, sage flower.
It's a
herb.
Bush herb.
Yeah, she said take a sage bush, light it up, and just ward it off, just like that, to get the ghost to go away. So she did that, and this just kept on happening. So she went on the internet, and she started doing some research, and she came across this forum of ghost hunters, And so she contacted, I guess, one of these guys, and she told him what was going on, what she was experiencing. And the first thing he asked her was, "Have you heard of carbon monoxide poisoning?" She goes, "No, what's that?" So he basically told her that you need to get your carbon monoxide levels checked. So she called her electric company. They came in, they checked her carbon monoxide level, and lo and behold, her carbon monoxide level was high. And if you look up the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, auditory hallucinations,
Feelings of dread.
feelings of dread, those are common symptoms. So I guess what I'm saying is like, before you attribute anything to a supernatural phenomenon, you have to rule out
Make sure you don't have a gas leak.
rule out things that could possibly explain it.
Yeah, like psychological illness, stress, depression.
Stress will
Absolutely.
definitely do it. Stress can cause many things.
Poisons, bad air quality,
Poisons.
sickness, like a physical sickness, not a mental sickness. Even though we might even say that some mental sicknesses could be tied into physical sicknesses, correct?
Yeah. Epilepsy, seizures, well known to cause, strange phenomenon and experiences. So that's another one that should be on the radar. Like, if people are having sort of strange things going on.
So there are many reasons
Yeah.
why things could happen, and the supernatural, it doesn't have to be the default, and I feel like in certain cultures and certain societies, it's always the hocus pocus. They always go to the hocus pocus first. So like, well, this lady is disheveled and distraught because she's possessed by a demon, not because her husband's beating her, these children are upset and not acting normally because they're possessed, not because they got bit by a rabid dog, so to speak, so like, there are cultural biases to the supernatural in most cultures, and it's specifically because of a lack of education in the sciences.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you are in a remote area, there's no other human being in a 300 to 500 mile radius. You hear stuff. Trust me, it's the gin.
Yeah, you gotta trust your instinct too, man. If you feel something ain't right, something ain't right, man. You know what I'm saying? Like,
now, here's a little interesting tidbit from the native Indians, and and I found that out because they have these classes in some of the national parks. How they educate people how to be when you go to a national park, how you got to keep safe from animals and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting bit they add at the end of it. They're like, listen, we know, a lot of things don't make sense and stuff, but this is something to do with spirituality, and we respect nature and how nature is. And so when you do go in certain areas, or you're trying to camp there and whatnot, you must do a ritual. And everybody's like, what kind of ritual? And the ritual is basically you announce your intentions.
Right.
What you are doing in that area, and what you are trying to gain out of it. Loudly into just the air. And then they're like, it doesn't make sense, but this is something the natives have educated us about, and it actually helps a lot of people have a better experience in national parks.
Yeah. And the natives have like tens of thousands of years of practical experience in the wilderness. So it's not like they just made this up one day, like oh, we're gonna mess with these white people. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, they have tens of thousands of years of practical experience in the wilderness, and so this comes from like a knowledge, like a passed on cultural knowledge from person to person.
So that means that these entities that you're announcing your intentions to, they can understand you.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Well, at least they can.
I mean, that's what it's right.
Well,
I'm sorry?
it's like this, like when if a stranger comes to your house, the stranger being polite and just in the right attitude with you, you would actually host them better than somebody trying to just come into your house. You're like, who the hell are you? He just comes into your house, does his thing, and you're like, what is this guy doing? It's
But
like,
Rich K, let me.
yeah, just
Yeah,
think
sorry,
of
go
it
ahead.
like certain domain, somebody's domain.
Etiquette.
Yes, you're just
Got
showing
it.
respect for it, and
Yeah.
those beings know that you can't see them, but showing the respect, kind of eases them against you, or any hostility they might have.
Yeah, for sure. This like respect of announcing yourself isn't unique to Native Americans as well. Like Rizke
Right.
in Islamic
Yeah.
tradition, when you enter a
Yeah.
house, when nobody's
Yeah.
inside the house, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, you're supposed to.
You do what?
You say a little. What is it?
You just announce yourself.
Bismillah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
say Salam alaikum or Bismillah or
Assalamu
whatever.
alaikum. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
It makes sense. I mean, I think
You wanna
that seems like a
know-
wise thing to do.
You want to know another culture that actually heavily has a tradition and a lot of history plus literature on the subject is the Japanese.
Oh, really?
Yes, and the Japanese,
Japanese.
give these entities named yokai. They call them yokai.
Yokai?
Yokai.
Okay.
And their description of these entities is so similar to the Islamic description.
Really?
Yes, how they behave, how they mimic different, features and shapes and form. Hell, their anime is rich in all of this.
yeah.
Yeah. If you really want to see like even the Chinese actually, the Chinese have a lot of literature on this.
Chinese as well.
Yeah, Chinese as well.
Interesting.
I'm gonna actually put up some links from the Chinese and the Japanese stuff. It's I find it's like those people actually are pretty in tune with this more than anything.
Yeah, I feel that like in the West we've gotten what's the word I'm looking for? We've gotten extremely in the scientific sort of mindset. I think.
Yeah,
at
but
times.
like also something I want to say, like the discussion that we're having is not
Yeah.
a challenge to the scientific world, right? If you hear
Right.
what we're saying is that there are creatures that are made out of elements, right? Whether it was created or if it was some type of evolution, if you want to say, right? They evolved through a certain type of element, like we've evolved through flesh and blood, right? So and these creatures have evolved through a different type of like bio building blocks, so to speak, right? So like the physical aspect is scientific. You can say that they were evolved or created through a specific type of physicality, and the chemical aspect of it as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you, I was listening to a show where there are people who take DMT, right?
Yeah. Time.
And when they take DMT, there's a chemical that's released in their brain, which is probably DMT, right? A small amount. And each and every single person who has taken this drug has the same type of experience. They go into a different realm. There's creatures that are there, beings that are in that realm, and they come and talk to them, right? Funny enough, when humans die, your brain releases hundreds, tens, and 100,000 times the amount of DMT in a tablet that you take. 10,000 to 100,000 times more DMT is released in your brain right before you die, right? So some people say that, the next world when you die, like, it isn't a physical portal, it's a chemical portal, right? That the key to this portal is in your brain, and it releases these chemicals that transport you into this different dimension, right? And those creatures that are in those dimensions could be whatever, we think they are. The world isn't locked into the 3D. Like, there's a chemical world, there's a physical world, there's a world of light, there's a world of sense, there's a world of like airwaves. Like, there's so many different realms in our planet that we can only have a fraction of the sense of while we're alive. You know.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep an open mind. But I'm saying, like, I'm just commenting on the trajectory that the Western world has seemed to take in. Because if you look at the, what is it, the new atheist movement, for example, like that's very prominent, like typified by people like Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins. Those are two prominent thinkers that are very influential, by the way, in this country. They're gonna say that unless we can observe it, it doesn't hold water.
Yeah.
That's their way of thinking in terms of that's what they mean by like a sign.
That's the reason I say there's no atheist on a sinking ship.
Yeah, straight up, dude.
And that's how I say you can't throw a spoon and it just cracks into a Ferrari, all of a sudden.
Yeah, there ain't no atheist in a foxhole,
Yeah.
right?
That's true. That's true.
The thing, just the whole scenario of even mathematically, if you look at it, math
Right.
being the most observable science ever, the calculations in astronomy and everything. Yeah, man, come on. The system is right in front of you. There is a creator. Okay, I don't care. You don't want to call it God or anything, but there is a creator.
But you can also only observe what you perceive. Like you can't, and like this can extend to just you and I having a conversation, right? If I feel a certain way, you feel a certain way, and I just don't, I can't relate to what you're saying. Like I'm not perceiving what you're saying, so I cannot observe it. I don't understand it. And the same concept goes with what they're saying. Like, yes, if you can observe a specific topic, then it doesn't exist. But like, what if you just can't perceive it?
No, there's a good actually that philosophical question. If a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody around there to,
did it really fall?
Did it fall or did it make a sound?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what your worldview.
So it needs an observer, right? It needs an observer to audience, the physical nature of that whole motion. But at the same time, you're standing and looking at the galaxies right above your head. You're observing it. Then what?
Right. Well, definitely that. Well, that's a whole other topic for sure. But in terms of the supernatural, I think, I guess we can all agree that definitely that there's a
basically my comment to the Western listeners is that the search for the Bigfoot, the Dogmen, whatnot, have it. What you're actually dealing with are different kinds of jinn. All right. So once you understand what jinn are, what they're capable of, and what keeps them away, you can deal with this phenomena a lot better, or have less people going missing in the national parks.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't go out by yourself. So national park is really what it's coming down to.
I don't need to do no camping. If I want to camp, I got a backyard. I'll put a tent up there.
Straight up and down, son.
All right. Okay. Well, any other final thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, what's next topic? Good Nor.
I think,
our typical.
We should actually talk about black holes next because that's kind of like the plateau the scientific
black holes
communities kind of hit. Read up on that stuff these guys have been finding. They've hit a roadblock. They've hit a roadblock. It's a very interesting roadblock also.
To try to explain a black hole? Okay.
This sounds like months of studying and reading that we're going to have to do, bro. I don't know about next week.
It is. We should start on it and then come up, with the show at some point. But it is a very interesting topic, though.
All right. Well, I think my final thoughts are that, like I said, keep an open mind. If it can be explained by other things, I think that should be the default. Like, don't go to the supernatural first. Go to, like, are there other explanations that could be causing what's going on? And if not, then you can think about, okay, maybe this was a supernatural experience that I had. Then it would be different.
I would say if you're, it's a situational thing. If you're in the wilderness, it's over, buddy. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing. Our perception of the world and what's going on around us is minute. Like, it's very small. We can't really experience everything that's going on around us. As like sound waves through the air, we might be able to hear them, but we can't see them. We can't hear all of them. We can't sense all of them. Meanwhile, bats and other creatures have echolocation, right? So like our ability of perception is limited to what we understand. Don't go digging for things that you don't understand.
Yeah,
right?
just like in the horror movies. Hey, what was that sound? Let's go check it out. Don't do it.
Whatever. Don't go. Like, don't go digging for things that you don't understand. Don't be in places that you have no business being in. Like out at night, walking around in a freaking graveyard at night or an empty construction site. Bro, there's been plenty of times where I had to go to empty construction sites at night, and like grown men, 45-year-old grown ass men from like North Carolina and Kentucky and Louisiana, like they won't go. Like they wouldn't just wouldn't do it. Like, yeah, we're not going. You know what I'm saying? So
you want to ask them like, what's the deal, dude? Like, why?
Yeah, like, no, I'm good. I'm just not gonna go. So like, don't go looking for stuff you got no business looking for. You know what I'm saying? And lastly, like to Rizk's point, 95% of supernatural things that happen have like some type of explanation, whether physical, mental, sickness, whatever.
Unless you see somebody, levitating, that's a whole different.
Yeah. So don't default to the supernatural.
I'm just saying it's situational.
You're a chump.
It's what you're observing, the category.
Yeah.
If it's floating in the air, that's different.
Yeah.
And I would say that I would really like to hear, like, for the viewers, if they've had any experiences, please share.
Yeah, do comment about it. We really
please comment, and because we would really like to hear more about that. And if you had a authentic experience, we could get you on, and we can talk about it. That'd be really cool.
Hallucinated off a bad ulcer.
And also, don't forget to like, share, comment. Our YouTube page is up and running. The Facebook page is up and running. I try to post supplemental material that you guys will find educational, hopefully. And I will post more links that Saint mentioned from this episode on there so that people can take a look for themselves and come to their own,
But
own
I actually,
conclusions.
From the weirds, I really want to see some comment stories about your person.
Yeah, share your stories with us. We want to know. If we got a good story, we'll share your story too. We'll dedicate a podcast to viewer stories, which is
especially cool. Especially even possessed by a djinn.
You gotta stop, bro. Cool. Don't even talk about that shit.
Actually, I got a local ghost hunter team here.
Dude. All right.
We might get them on the show.
Nice. All right.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Khalas Energy Drink. One drink and Khalas. Also by Stay Fresh Lota. Stay Fresh Lota. Stay fresh. Also the Big Brown Deck Barbecue out of Brantford, Florida, not Alachua, Florida. Brantford, Florida, I was told. Come on down. The eating's good. All right, everybody.
Peace out.
All right.
You love me. You love me.
You know I'm flawed.
You love me. You love me.
But you love me anyway.
You love me anyway.